everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Thursday high noon. Bo Wulf, joined by the man who refuses to say the phrase sexual napalm, Zach Berman. How you doing?
I'm well, Bo. Happy to be on the show. Excited for the show. Certainly was not expecting that introduction, nor do I anticipate anyone understands the introduction. But you never cease to find ways to make me uncomfortable. So it is an amazing skill of yours. Like it can be listed among skills on the resume. Like find new and creative ways to make Zach.
Why does that make you uncomfortable?
Because we're on a show broadcasted to thousands and thousands
millions
of people. I mean, I hope we reach millions. Right now, thousands and thousands of people. We'll get to millions. Okay, I have confidence in that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I come, I prepare, I'm thinking about what we're going to talk about, and then I get disoriented by such an introduction. But this is part of
the conversation we were having before the show.
When you phrase it like that, people are now curious why we were talking about that term before the show.
Well, that's how you hook them in, Zach.
I suppose so. But yeah, excited for the show. Excited to talk OTAs and whatever else is on your mind, except some other, not everything that's on your mind, but some things that are on your mind. And yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Well, we talked yesterday about everything we saw. Well, some of the things that we saw over the course of the practice and smelled at the first open OTA. We've got some more stuff to talk about. And where would you like to start?
Where would I like to start? So, well, the teaser here, the thumbnail. Well, not the thumbnail, but the headline was about Cooper DeJean in Vic Fangio's defense. So let's start with that. So we hit on why people are clicking the link, but then we'll get into much, much more.
See, now if you wanted, you could say, we're going to get to that. That's the thing they've clicked on. You got to bring them along, but now you've already promised we're going to get into it.
It's like Monday's show, which we've had a good week of shows. But Monday's show with Les Bowen people enjoyed it. We got nice comments about it, but
people love Les. What's not to love?
No, but the funny thing is it was about like previewing OTAs with Les. We might have talked about OTAs for 30 seconds, and then everything else for the other. That was about an hour and 2 minutes. So
okay.
So yeah, Cooper DeJean's a good place to start.
Yeah, now we talked a little bit about Cooper DeJean yesterday, but you want to get some full names in the headline to bring people in. That's all about the algorithm. You got to get those bad boys in.
Jacob Harris wouldn't do it.
Yeah, what are we gonna?
Yeah, people
promise something.
Yeah, people. If you see Jacob Harris, they're not gonna do it. I always fall for those teases, by the way. So I understand when you'll see someone will have an article being like Howie Roseman. Is about to pursue this explosive free agent or something like that. I'm like, oh, goodness. And I click on it, and it's just like a link to a report about some...
Jacob Harris?
yeah, something like that. But it always gets me to click.
Yeah, and you got the all caps verb. You got to get that bad boy in there.
Exactly. Maybe an emoji or two.
Howie Roseman impales
so
other general managers. I don't know.
Yeah, so Cooper DeJean, what are you anticipating his role being week 1 of this season?
Oh, you're just jumping ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'll defer to you.
I think that's fine. No, well, here the context is that yesterday when we watched him, we saw him play nickel, we saw him play left cornerback, we saw him play right cornerback, and it's interesting that the player development plan that Vic Fangio has in mind for Cooper DeJean is throwing a bunch of stuff at him and seeing what sticks. I think that my week 1 expectation, I mean, it depends on Avonte Maddox, right? You're expecting that probably Quinion Mitchell is going to start opposite Darius Slay. You're going to have C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship at safety if everybody's healthy. Week 1, to me, if Avonte Maddox is healthy, I would lean toward him actually being on the field. And I know that he's not guaranteed of a roster spot, and if he's healthy, it carries a lot of weight because he has not been able to stay healthy. But I think if everybody stays healthy, my expectation is that Cooper DeJean would be more of a special package player than a starting player week 1. But by the middle of the season, I would expect that he will be a starting player on the defense.
In the slot?
Probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I ask you this too, What do you think the Eagles think the most probable long-term scenario is for Cooper DeJean? That he's a starting outside guy, that he's a chess piece moving around, that he's a slot, that he's a safety. When they're predicting ranges of outcomes, what do you think the range of outcome they think is most likely to occur?
The most likely, probably slot.
Okay.
But I think they would like to hold open the possibility that he can be the eventual starter opposite Quinion Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think slot safety is probably the eventual one, but I agree with you. I do think they
Slot
think
safety? Or you mean just interchangeable?
slot and safety. Yeah, being able to play both.
Okay.
Almost like a C.J. Gardner-Johnson type. I mean, I heard, was it Daniel Jeremiah who used to comp Malcolm Jenkins, right? And Malcolm was drafted as an outside corner, then moved to safety. The game has also evolved since, 10 years ago, but someone who can cover the slot, who can play safety. Kyle Hamilton does some of that in Baltimore.
That's lofty.
Certainly lofty. But I do think the Eagles internally believe he can play outside cornerback and that there are parts of his skill set that were not utilized at Iowa just because of the structure of that defense that can be maximized here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think their plan is for him to be on the outside.
Sure.
And maybe it's the kind of thing where in a perfect world, when you're in base, it's DeJean and Quinion Mitchell on the outside, and then when you move to nickel, Keely Ringo comes in and plays on the outside, and DeJean slides inside, right? Something like that.
I would sign up for that.
Well, of course, that's unrealistic to expect that all of those guys are going to hit. But in a perfect world, yeah.
Positionless football.
That's not positionless football.
Yeah.
He is changing positions. That's not positionless.
Yeah, positionless meaning that he can play all over the place. That
No. That's versatility. He's able to play multiple positions. Positionless is like, oh, there's all these guys, everybody's interchangeable. It's total football. Like, that is not the same thing. When you have one player who is able to move around, that's not positionless, that's multi-position.
So you're arguing the same. So positionless, with the way it's kind of been understood and with the way it's discussed, means that you don't keep him within the confines of a traditional position. So multi-position and positionless.
That is not what positionless means.
Yes, that is. I'm telling you, he's
changing from the outside corner to the nickel.
Yes.
Those are specific positions in the defense, specific roles that he is playing. This is not Isaiah Simmons where like, oh, you got this guy on the field. He's just a football player. It doesn't matter where you put him. He'll cover anybody.
That's precisely because he can play different positions. No. So multi-position and positionless. This is gonna turn into an actual Shane
argument.
says, "Wait, does Bo genuinely not know that's what positionless means?"
That is not what positionless means. No, it is not.
Means, positionless.
Oh
the way it's used in sports does not mean that you don't play any position. It means you are not that a position label does not apply to you. Positionless basketball. I've given you the history of this. It is that the players on the Miami Heat, they don't have to play just power forward or small forward or point guard or shooting guard or center. On a given possession, they play different positions. So multi-position and positionless. I am wrong. Chat, weigh in. Because I actually feel strongly about this.
Yeah, that's fine. You feel that way. You are wrong.
Just because you believe something is wrong doesn't make it wrong.
No.
You are not the arbiter
this time,
of everything
you
in
are
society.
wrong. You are incorrect. Maybe, but this does help explain why you keep pitching positionless, because it just means that you don't understand what positionless means. You're just asking for guys to be versatile.
We have breaking news. The Philadelphia Eagles have signed John Ross to a 1-year contract.
Thank God.
The Eagles read all PHLY on Tuesday night. They knew that, hey, Zach had other stuff he could be doing, but he was giving the people a list of 7 players that they could sign or that they could acquire, and John Ross is one of them. John Ross, of course, first-round pick out of Washington in 2017, set a then combine record with a 4.23 40-yard dash, has been an underachieving player with Cincinnati and with the New York Giants in the NFL. But John Ross can absolutely run. I asked someone in the building a few weeks ago, can John Ross still run? He said John Ross will always be able to run. The Eagles are adding one of the fastest football players in NFL history. And he hasn't played an NFL snap since 2021.
Correct.
but John Ross can he can certainly stretch the field, and he fits the offseason of draft pedigree. So Howie Roseman is utilizing my Madden draft, my Madden strategy from the past decade.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's of course you love it. This is a former top 10 pick.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So we can get back to the position.
No. We do not need to. I do not want to talk about that again. Let's use the excuse of the John Ross signing to get us away from that nonsense argument. John Ross. So yes, a top 10 pick in 2017, as you said. No catches in 3 games of his rookie year. Then 21 catches for 210 yards in 2018. His best season came in 2019. His third year, 28 catches for 506 yards. And then after that, sort of fell off the map. Had 224 receiving yards in 2021 for the New York Giants. This is a guy who, as you said, is the theory of John Ross is that he can help stretch the field. It's a similar best case scenario to Quez Watkins. Like if he can give you what Quez Watkins gave you, that would be like a good return on the investment here. I think it's very easy to say that he's on the outside looking in on the roster. Like he hasn't been on a team and he was a tryout player, but an interesting person to bring into the building. Yeah.
So what's interesting about him, like you mentioned, the fact that he was a tryout player, they've at least seen him. It's not just working off of tape from 2021. It's not just like a random workout at the facility. He spent the 2-day rookie minicamp with the team, so they had eyes up close on him. I would agree. Outside looking in, he's you mentioned the size, 5'11", 194. He's not like Ralph Finn, right? And he was compared to Deshaun Jackson, Brandon Cooks, that type of player when he was coming out of Washington. Probably overdrafted. I remember the Eagles had the 14th pick that year, and there was a lot of smoke about the Eagles going after him then. Did not last that long, of course. And then when he was on the trade block with the Bengals, I believe in the 2020 season, I heard some whispers that the Eagles were interested in him then. They did not make a move. Still young. What's
28?
Yeah, 28. So or under 30. So I would expect he doesn't make the team, but
also a poster boy for the wide receiver buckets as a player who did not really produce until his senior season in 2016. And so you if he's this talented and this fast, he should have produced earlier in his college career.
Okay, yeah. So we'll see what he works. Maybe he gets to number 13.
And there you go. Yeah. That would be big.
That would be big.
So let's.
Wait, so yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I want to stay here on the receivers because let's talk about what we saw yesterday. There was no Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown was out there, but the rest of the wide receiver group leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, Ainias Smith, who we had talked about on Tuesday as a player that we wanted to see, he is still not practicing. He had that shin injury in the run up to the draft, so he is going through some position drills, but is not participating in team stuff. So we didn't get to see him out there. So even more of a depleted group than you might have expected. But was there anybody there who just caught your eye in any way who was out there yesterday?
Well, I thought Paris Campbell was solid. Maybe there was some confirmation bias there. He played, right? He wasn't injured, so it wasn't a myth of Paris Campbell, right? It took work with the first team. That's your Paris. That's your Paris.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
Ouais.
What? What'd you say?
I said, ouais.
Is that a French word?
Yes, I'm just putting a little extra stank on the oui.
Ah, okay. All right. Fair enough. So Paris Campbell, who it's actually not even spelled Paris. It's Parris. So it's actually it's different. It's different than Paris, France. Nonetheless, Paris Campbell, caught my eye, moved well. He caught. I had him down for 2 passes over the middle. Does that seem right to you?
What?
Okay. So Paris Campbell, Jacob Harris, who was a 4th-round pick by the Los Angeles Rams, did not do much in terms of catching the ball for the Eagles, but got guy open downfield, and you're looking at 6'5".
I'm not sure he got open. Well, Quinton Mitchell was all over him. Both times he was targeted downfield.
There was one where he dropped it.
Yeah, but he was like blanketed.
Okay.
It was like reacting to the back shoulder or underthrown ball.
He got down. Okay.
I would not say he got open.
Okay, but anyways, Jacob Harris was downfield, so he caught my attention in that regard. Joseph Ngata taking work with the first team, just in terms of the depth chart, didn't do much as far as catching the ball. Will Shipley was involved in the passing game, like not just catching the ball out of the backfield, but splitting out. So just something to pay attention to in terms of the versatility of Will Shipley. Other than that, Johnny Wilson looks the part, man.
Yeah, you know, big old dude.
Reminds me of Tyree Jackson.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, could you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
I think that's like probably the perfect comparison.
Okay, like the idea of him is better than the.
And you probably have about similar expectations.
Yeah. Now, they once traded Zach Ertz because they were so excited about the possibility of Tyree Jackson. The summer of 2020, man, that was an interesting one. They'd love them some Tyree Jackson.
Well, probably the pandemic's fault again.
You're blaming the pandemic.
Shaquan Davis also looks the part a little bit.
Sure.
At 6'5", 215. But yeah, nobody was like out there making plays, really. Aside from A.J. Brown.
Which is probably why they need to sign someone like John Ross.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, you mentioned it, like Jalen Hurts was like holding the ball for a lot yesterday. Like it's 7-on-7. The ball's got to come out quickly.
Yes.
And I think part of the reason for that is they don't have a lot of down roster wide receivers making plays. Although Britain Covey actually, I thought, had a good day.
I don't want to misquote you, but I think I overheard you on the sideline. That is like a gripe of yours when the quarterback doesn't throw it in 7-on-7s. Is that correct? Did you say something along those lines?
I don't remember.
Okay, I believe you did.
Yeah. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Like the ball's got to come out.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
Like it's if you throw an interception.
But you were saying you didn't want to misquote me, but then there was no quote.
Well, I think that's what you said. I think you said.
You said I have a particular gripe when the ball does not come out in 7-on-7.
When you frame like that, you're probably watching because for you to make that type of comment, you're probably watching it with like someone whose football acumen you really respect. Maybe like a Fran Duffy or a Sheil Kapadia or something like that. Like
How about Zach Berman?
Just like two football guys.
This is the year of you knowing ball.
Just like two football guys huffing and
huffing paint.
just talking shop, right? But I mean, look, I give Bo a lot of credit for his astute practice observations and watching
more
practice.
than I deserve.
Make sure you check those out on allphly.com. No, but I say this in earnest. The first 7-on-7 period, okay? Obviously all the offensive linemen are on a different field. Everyone's doing 7-on-7. All the eyes of all the reporters are on 7-on-7 because look, this is like the sexy thing to watch here. You got the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs. You get the DB matchups, but over on the other side, on the separate field, the O-line, they're just doing drills. They're doing like nothing that gets you really excited. But Bo is over there watching the O-line, and I say
It's not correct, but it's okay.
Well, you weren't over there?
Not in 7-on-7s yesterday. I was there during individual stuff, but once they started 7-on-7s, that was the only
Okay, I'm
action
sorry.
going
Individual
on.
stuff then.
Yeah.
Individual stuff. Okay, so not so.
Of course,
still,
I
you
want to
weren't
get that
watching
O-line depth chart.
You weren't watching the ball security drills on offense.
Yeah.
That okay. So I reframed. Sorry, I'm conflating it.
It's okay.
It was a very exciting 90 minutes for me. It was like everything. It's like sensory overload. You know, I bring my son to
like football napalm.
I bring my son and daughter to Five Below, and when they walk in, it's like sensory overload there, right? That's what the first practice of spring is like for me. So much is going on.
Kid in the candy store,
you know.
literally.
And then the other thing too, I try to be friendly to everybody, right? And so you have other reporters sometimes who want to come over and chat with you, catch up on things, and you're being polite, but you're also like, hey. I only get 90 minutes a week of this, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have my cell. You can text me, call me anytime, right? I have drives here and I have drives to work, from work, when I'm filling that time up. Like right now, I kind of want to watch football.
All right, so any reporters who are watching or listening to the show right now, do not talk to Zach during practice.
That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. Yes.
Let the man scribe. All right, Zach, before we get going with the rest of the show, let's talk about our friends at Rocket Money, because Rocket Money saves me money and it can save you money too. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. We're talking, they're going to comb through all of your subscriptions to make sure you've got no duplicates, that there's nothing you're paying for that you didn't know that you were paying for. They also keep charge of what your spending is, and so if there's something that's out of the ordinary that pops up, they'll flag it for you, make sure that this is, nothing untoward going on, and all of a sudden, you're saving money with Rocket Money. Because with Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. And not only that, but if you don't want to talk to people, if you're trying to watch football practice and you don't want to be bothered by talking to other people and getting on the phone, well, Rocket Money will try to negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They will deal with customer service for you. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
In our business, they say the time to have a source or to build a source is before you need one, right? The time to make a friend is before you need one. Well, similarly, the time to get a vaccine is before you need one, right? You don't want to wait until you're sick and then say, I was too busy on that Thursday afternoon to get my shingles vaccine or my pneumonia vaccine or my tetanus vaccine or my whooping cough vaccine or my chickenpox vaccine. I can go on down the list. And you can get all these vaccines at Rite Aid, because Rite Aid is a place where the pharmacists are specially trained, certified immunizers. Most vaccines are no cost with insurance or through government plans like Medicare Part D. If you're unsure what vaccines you need, because we don't need all of them, it's specific to who you are, your age, your history, get a personalized recommendation from a Rite Aid pharmacist. If you have questions about vaccines, stop in and ask the pharmacist. I mentioned all the different types of ailments that you can get vaccinated for at Rite Aid. Select Rite Aid stores have a dedicated pharmacist ready to administer vaccines and answer your questions. If you have questions on what immunizations you need, if you're not sure if you're up to date, if you're feeling nervous to ask questions, a Rite Aid pharmacist will take the time to make personalized recommendations based on your health history and discuss any concerns. No questions are too small. Just, what was that? Just give me bunny ears? Are you 6? Just walk in or schedule an appointment on Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. State age and health restrictions may apply. Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist for details. Let's unpack this here. Were you bored? Was there some?
A little bit. Well, it's just funny when it's the solo shot and you can just creep in something behind.
It's not fun. I've never seen you on a solo shot and felt compelled to reach over and put.
It'll happen one day.
It will never do that. I'm 38 years old. I'm not 6. When was the last time you've ever done?
Having a little bit of fun, You
do bunny ears in photos?
No, but the inspiration struck.
What inspired you? You saw me and you said, I need to do bunny ears. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, I know you don't want to harp on this, but I'm reading the chat here. And this is actually one of the more polarizing topics we've discussed, because people are like in back-to-back things.
I'm
just saying,
I'm
Bo
going
is
to be
100%.
mean if we talk about this.
Okay, so don't be mean. I'm just saying this really probably needs better understanding, because Ziggy Marley says I'm right. Go Birds says you're 100% correct. So really, we have no consensus here. Typically, these arguments, there's consensus. It's usually pro Bo. But I'm curious. We need a third person arbiter.
No, we don't. I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. If they're wrong, positionless is not multi-position. Unless you can play every single position.
All right, you're right. We probably don't need to go down this rabbit hole, because I actually think I actually think you were misinterpreting it, but we don't need to go down this rabbit hole.
You are. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Fine.
I told you I don't want to talk about this.
I didn't think you get so worked up about it. Goodness.
All right. Last thing on the wide receivers, Zach.
Yes.
One thing that we mentioned, but maybe haven't fully unpacked is: were you struck? Did you notice the pre-snap motion that was going on during practice yesterday?
I noticed it, but I need to really wait for like 11 on 11 to get a true sense of how the pre-snap motion is used over the course of the play.
Yeah, we're all looking for it because that's, in theory, something that's going to be added to this offense that did not use motion very much under Nick Sirianni. And, they were using motion yesterday. There were a couple snaps where it was not just, sort of like one guy from the side of their formation to another, and then you snap the ball. There were a couple ones where it was like A.J. Brown's coming over, he's in the slot, and as he's moving the ball, is snapped. Like, that was interesting to see from they're installing the base parts of the offense, but I don't think we can, say with any degree of confidence how much motion there's going to be.
At 7:03 this morning, the topic on radio was that Jalen Hurts looked faster. Did you notice anything about Jalen Hurts' speed? Okay. That's why I asked. You were there. You had
at no point yesterday was Jalen Hurts running full speed.
Yeah, I think it was based on a clip of him carrying out a fake 60 yards down the left side, but he's done that in the past. I mean, it could be something. I guess because this is something that I imagine people want to know. How did Jalen look? Jalen's healthy this time of year, right? When Jalen's playing in December, there's an accumulation of hits, and last year he was obviously dealing with a lower body injury early in the season and throughout the season. Then he had the hand late in the year, but it was affecting his mobility, as you and Baldy were very early on last year. So he's healthier now. He should be able to move better now than he did last year, but it's not as if he was running all around.
Yeah, I mean, it was practice, and he's a quarterback. There's no way to tell if he was running faster.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to stay on the quarterbacks for a bit?
Sure.
What do you think of your boy KP? Besides, my boy.
I was a little bit underwhelmed by Kenny Pickett just for one practice, but that's it's one practice.
You wanted to say
bold declarations. Yeah, I think I did not see anything to make me think that Kenny Pickett is definitely better than Tanner McKee.
One of the things you were looking out for when we did the draft the other day was the zip coming out of the hands. You felt the ball was zippier out of the hands of McKee?
Yeah, I thought the ball was particularly lazy coming out of Kenny Pickett's hands. It was floating. There were a couple times on throws to the outside where you were just waiting an extra tick for the ball to get there. There was one nice throw he made in the last play of practice. He's rolling to his left. What?
Yeah, Gainwell?
Yeah, he fired it in there. Yeah. Now, that was an incomplete pass. Gainwell was out of bounds, but he did fire that ball in and throw it to his left, and it was well placed. I'm not saying I'm not judging Kenny Pickett by one practice, but I would say that, arm strength is not his top tool.
Accuracy? Did you see the accuracy?
To some extent, yeah.
Okay. Will Greer stand out to you in any way?
No. Okay. I mean, he didn't throw a practice, and he didn't throw a pass in 7-on-7s.
7-on-7s, yeah. Okay.
Got some hair to him.
He does. His brother is actually really famous.
Ham.
Am I missing a joke here, Joey?
I said Pam. Pam Greer. That's the only person I can think of. Last name Greer.
I just want to make sure I'm not being offensive in any variety. I don't know Pam Grier. Am I supposed to know Pam Grier? What has she been in that I'm familiar with?
Jackie Brown.
Is this one of these things where I'm culturally illiterate again?
I think most people know Pam Grier, but I am certainly not surprised that you don't know Pam Grier.
Yeah, I don't know Pam Grier. I would imagine there's not a lot of people, or I should say not a lot. I imagine there's other people in my age demographic who don't know Pam Grier. I mean,
there are other people, yes.
Or I would imagine many people in my age bracket don't. But actually, in the age bracket that we're in, and maybe a little below or next to us, they might know Nash Grier. Okay, Nash Grier is an internet sensation, a
really?
TikToker. Yeah,
I don't know Nash Grier.
Yeah, Nash Grier.
What's his hook?
He's like a famous TikToker.
But what's his TikTok hook? What does he do?
He does videos on TikTok.
Okay.
Or no, he was a Vine. He became known for his so not TikToker. I'm sorry, Vine. He became
that's
known for his
very old.
online videos on the now defunct video sharing service Vine. But I remember I know about this because Will Greer, who was a prolific high school recruit, he signs on at Florida, and when he's at Florida, one of the stories was about how like here's this guy who's a superstar quarterback, but his brother is actually more notable than he is, or more famous than he is. And that's when I heard about Nash Greer, but I was not on here. He's got a Wikipedia page. Yeah.
So does Pam.
That's true. He's actually, he appeared in Scream, the 2019 version. So an actor as well.
Yeah.
This sounds like a good
real impressive
This sounds
thespian.
like a good Wolf's Den coming up.
Well, then you can be guaranteed that I will not do it.
because for the new listeners, Bo cannot take ideas from anybody else.
I can take them. I'm just not going to use them.
Just don't. Yeah. Just won't use them.
Okay.
So
one thing I wanted to mention.
If you say "be nice to Zach," you can be sure that will not be utilized on the show.
Let me. There is one piece of news that I wanted to discuss. Not even discuss. Just mention Keely Ringo, who was absent from practice yesterday. We were sort of speculating that he's probably been around. This is a bit of a. I would guess an outlier. The Eagles put out the video. They went bowling on Tuesday as a team. Keely Ringo was there. So, I think that puts that to bed. Keely Ringo is with the team right now.
And same thing, Devontae's been with the team too during the offseason.
Well, the Eagles said that they've had full participation over the course of the voluntary workouts. Like everybody has been there at least at some point.
Exactly.
Which includes James Bradbury, in theory.
Yeah, someone said, I think it was Elliot, he said that he saw a video with Bradbury in it at some point this offseason. So, yeah.
Okay. Elsewhere on the list here that you wanted to talk about in terms of players, you mentioned Jacob Harris. Sidney Brown, you wanted to discuss his ghosting.
Yeah, curious. So Sidney Brown stands about 50 yards or maybe 30 yards behind the play, which, by the way, I made this observation to someone I was watching practice with. Vic Fangio does not stand behind the defense. He stands behind the offense.
Yeah.
Where a lot of defense coordinators stand behind the defense. So just Vic prefers a different vantage point. Anyways, a spot where a lot of D coordinators like to stand, behind the defense, Sidney Brown was there, and he was doing reps on air, if you will. Back when I played baseball, we used to call them dry swings, right? And so he was doing those mental reps, those reps on air when Sidney Brown, of course, recovering from a torn ACL. He was mimicking what he would be doing on that given play. What's your read on this as someone who knows body language and knows football players? Do you think this was performative? Do you think this was something that makes him who he is? Do you think it was I guess what's your read on it?
I think it's who he is. He's a part of what the Eagles like about him is he's like a try-hard guy, and this is part of that. Yeah. I mean, I think your comparison to dry swings is good because this is like a thing where like coaches like when you're in the batter's box, use that, like take that, and it is completely unhelpful and like serves almost no purpose. Yeah. But I actually do think like from that, it's different because like when you're doing the dry swings off to the side, it's not this. You're not seeing it the same way. But where he is deep in the backfield, it's a similar vantage point. Like I think that's totally. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I agree. Back when when batting practice would be cut short and my reps wouldn't come, my coach was like, "Berman, go do dry swings." I'm like,
"Oh, that is."
I'm like, "What am I doing dry swings for?"
Yeah, come on, coach.
I'm not getting in the game.
It's like Berman go do dry swings.
Yeah. So
might as well kick me off the team. Dude, like what a mean thing to say.
I would be like. Dry swing. I would go overboard and I would like make sure he
no surprise.
He heard. I'd be like 2-1 count, curveball coming.
Just completely tracks.
Yes, exactly. So I would do that. So like this is my approach here. I got 2 strikes, so I'm not striding, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Would you stride with 2 strikes, or would you widen your stance?
No, you choke up a little bit. Maybe shorten up a little bit, but not too much. Okay. Last one you had on here, Zach, was Will Shipley, who spent a little bit of time working in the slot, and maybe that's related to the wide receiver shallowness. But the Eagles using him in some different ways.
Yeah, I think the Eagles were and are excited about the way he can catch the ball. Now, he didn't really exhibit that much yesterday. He had a drop or two out there.
At least one. Yeah.
But I do know they think he can be used that way. That's something that the scouting staff liked about him coming out. And my guess is, now look, Kenny Gainwell caught a lot of balls at Memphis, was not really used that way in the offense. To be fair, that's not how the Eagles' offense was structured during the past 2 years, or at least Hurts wasn't throwing to the backs. But I think one way they're going to use Shipley is to try to throw him the ball, and I think they think he can make plays in space. And yesterday was an example.
There you go. What about the players we heard from on the press conference podium after practice, Zach?
Yeah, so let's start with Jalen Carter. Okay, Jalen Carter, who, man, I feel bad for the person who sat in the seat after him, so that's Darius Slay, right? Jalen was sweaty.
Okay.
You know, what a no-sell.
What would you like me to say? How do I sell that?
Not with...
Boy, that would be sweaty. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so Jalen Carter really focused on his conditioning this offseason. He said he actually spent less time kind of like on some of the handwork type stuff, more time on conditioning, knowing how important that's going to be. He's going to take a lot of snaps. I mean, I think this is not a bold take. He's the centerpiece of the defense. Les Bowen has a piece up right now.
I want to talk about this.
Yeah, Les Bowen has a piece up where the premise is that he's the most talented player on Vic Fangio's defense. Fletcher Cox isn't here. The Eagles didn't add someone in Fletcher Cox's place. Jalen Carter is going to be the guy, and Jalen Carter is going to have to take a heavy workload.
Absolutely. And what caught my eye in what Les wrote about is, hearkening back to when Vic Fangio in his introductory press conference was talking about sort of his disdain for load management and, connecting that to Jalen Carter, working on his conditioning, maybe Jordan Davis in some, we saw him looking a little bit slimmer at the Eagles Autism Challenge bike ride. We know that this Eagles defense, historically, under Howie Roseman, has wanted to rotate those defensive linemen a lot. That's not really what Vic Fangio at least did last year in Miami. Fletcher Cox played 15 games of 17, played 59% of the defensive snaps. And even that was an uptick from usual years. Jalen Carter was second on the team, 48% of the defensive snaps in 16 games. Jordan Davis was third, 45% of the defensive snaps in 17 games. Christian Wilkins last year for the Dolphins, their number one defensive tackle, played 17 games, 81% of the snaps. Zach Seiler, 77% of the defensive snaps. So there's a bit of a tension here between, the way that Vic Fangio would put the load on those defensive tackles and what Howie Roseman and the organization has done historically. Last year was a bit of an uptick from usual years. Maybe it's going to be even more so this year, and they're going to put even more on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis.
Good point. And I think Vic Fangio is going to win this one. I think Jalen Carter is going to play as much as Vic Fangio wants him to. Do you disagree?
I don't know that I disagree with that being the actual answer, but
whether that's the best
I agree with the Eagles' long-time philosophy that, let's rotate those bodies and keep those guys fresh.
Sure.
It's for the big picture, serving what's going to be best come January, I think.
Yeah, now that said, the Eagles have 3 D tackles who stand out above the rest, right? And they're going to play 3 D tackles a lot, right, if you have a 5-2 front. So when you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams, now Moro Ojimo can push in there. Maybe they add a backup nose there. But my guess is that Jalen's not going to come off the field that often. Other guys will. Jalen won't.
I mean, I do imagine that he's going to play the most snaps for sure.
He's not going to play every snap.
They're not super deep there. And I think to your point of the centerpiece of the defense, as we have talked about, the Eagles are on paper not as good on the edge as they were heading into last season or the season before. And part of what could still make that work is if either Jalen Carter in year 2 or maybe a little bit less likely, but Jordan Davis in year 3, if one of those guys takes a real leap to some degree, then all of a sudden maybe the pressure on the outside is not quite so great.
You're right. And they need to be Jalen Carter. I mean, Jalen Carter a top 10 pick, potential number 1 pick going into that year. Jalen Carter needs to be the difference maker. He needs to be their Fletcher Cox, their Ndamukong Suh, their Aaron Donald, like that type of player. The teams that have an interior player as their centerpiece, I think that's how the Eagles are looking at Jalen Carter. It was topical yesterday to bring up Vic Fangio, of course, because of the comments you brought up to me on Wednesday's show. I had not heard of it then, of Javon Holland. And we've heard this from a few Dolphins. And Jalen Carter, as you would expect him to say, said all his interactions with Vic Fangio have been positive. He loves Vic. But he said he's an old school guy. Like Jalen Carter said, he personally is an old school guy. He says in Apopka, Florida, Apopka, Apopka. I'm sorry if I
don't know the answer. So.
Okay. He said they have an old school type of program. It's an old school town. You work, and so he doesn't mind being coached like that. He said.
All right. Well, speaking of Vic Fangio, we know that he's a big Phillies fan, and Vic, if you're watching, you might want to be checking that Game Time app because you could get pretty cheap tickets as it gets closer to game time because Game Time is going to hook you up. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch with killer deals on last-minute tickets, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. One of my favorite features is that they show you the all-in price. Love that because you want to compare what you're going to see on Game Time and some of their competitors for similarly listed tickets. And it might look like the competitors' ones are a little bit lower, but then you go into click and purchase, and all of a sudden it shoots way up because they're not including the fees. Game Time does that for you because they are about making the experience easier for you. They are customer first. That's why they've also got such great customer service. Last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute events for sports, concerts, theater, comedy, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
It's actually an emphasis of the White House right now is to crack down on hidden fees, junk fees. There was a good episode of The Daily I would recommend people listening to about this.
Look at you bringing politics into the discussion.
Not talking politics, talking junk fees. Butcher Box. I want to talk to you about that. There's no junk fees with Butcher Box. Matter of fact, what you're getting is high quality meat. You're getting incredible deals on premium cuts from Butcher Box. I walked down from my office yesterday after our show. We had our show later in the day. Emily was actually at the grill. She was, what are you doing? Emily was grilling ribs, and I appreciate it. They were good ribs, but I said we could have had some Butcher Box meat here, right?
Wow, throwing Emily under the bus.
No, because the great thing is the steaks that I have from Butcher Box in my freezer, it's high quality meat. And it was delivered right to my doorstep. I didn't have to go to the grocery store. That was so inefficient. It takes away all the inefficiencies. It's so much more efficient to come right to my doorstep. Free shipping, always. I love the sound of that, free shipping. And it's curated to customized box plans. So I wanted to focus on the steak. That's what I had come in my box. Butcher Box is offering our listeners an amazing offer where new users get free meat plus $20 off your first box. Join today using our link butcherbox.com/PHLY and use code PHLY to receive this exclusive offer today before time runs out. ButcherBox is also, I should say, they are a sponsor in Rich Hoffman's outstanding newsletter.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone is subscribing to that. It's free to subscribe to that. No hidden fees on that one either. But yeah, Rich Hoffman's PHLY newsletter every morning, PHLY Sports newsletter. If you didn't catch the Phillies game the night before, if you didn't catch our Flyers show or our Sixers show, I hope you catch all of them. But Rich tells you everything that's going on in a funny way. I love it. It's awesome. What's
Khalif
so funny?
says Emily is a mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops. A gentle hand in the heart of the fighter, and ZB has the nerve to call her out on fixing ribs.
No. I said they were delicious ribs. I said I was trying to plug. I was trying to. This says here, personalize it. Please. They want us to personalize the story. So I was personalizing the stories. I did not have butcher box meat last night. I was explaining what I had for dinner. And we went to the grocery store. She made delicious ribs. They were a little on the healthy side, but they were delicious. It was like a sugar-free barbecue sauce that was on there. But they were great. They came right off the bone. They were terrific. I'm just saying that I would not have objected to high-quality meat that we got from Butcher Box. All I'm trying to do here, okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take you behind the curtain. I'm going to show you.
This is good. And now everybody knows you won't lie.
I'm going to show you how the sausage.
You could have lied and said they were Butcher Box ribs.
I'm going to show you how the sausage is made. In Butcher Box, I'm a loyal customer here, so I'm not doing it. Okay, we encourage hosts to share authentic stories and put their own spin. That's exactly what I did. And now I'm getting, I could just read it verbatim, like I once did. For a company that...
But the other thing is you could have done that without casting aspersions on Emily's meat buying habits.
Honestly, though, this is the thing. I'm still getting used to her. I shouldn't say getting used to this. We're 9 months into this now. I love doing this show, but I said last week I'm better at like offering at writing cogent and salient points than I am sometimes speaking it. So when we're on this, you have to be a bright lights player, to use the NFL term. Like there's no rewind, there's no pause. There's some podcasts where people do like 35 takes. We don't do that. We're live.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm doing a Butcher Box read here and I need to give my own spin on it. I'm thinking, what did I have for dinner last night? I would have liked to have Butcher Box instead. So yeah, that's all I was presenting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, we respect you, and we think you're doing a wonderful job. I did find it interesting that you refused to say sexual napalm because you didn't want that clipped.
Yes.
But you did say, and I wrote this down, that's what I had come in my box.
Bo, you have the weirdest mind. That's what you thought of?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That could be clipped too and used for some other purposes. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Yeah.
Okay, so after Jalen Carter, we heard from Darius Slay, Tyler Steen, and Saquon Barkley. We talked a little bit about Saquon yesterday. We talked about the golfing stuff. So tell me about Slay and Steen.
Yeah, so Slay, first off, if you remember the video that the Eagles put out when they drafted Quinyon Mitchell, and they said you can stay or that they want him staying next to Slay. And Quinyon said he'll live with Slay if he could. Slay said if he wants to, he can. It hasn't happened yet because Slay hasn't been in the area right now. Slay lives in Texas during the offseason, right? So Slay's not moved up here yet. But that is... that's something that he certainly didn't deny. He likes Quinyon Mitchell. He said that he studies cornerbacks leading up to the draft. Like he watches film of these guys. He's not someone who it's like, oh, the Eagles drafted Quinyon Mitchell. Who's that? He knows who these guys are. And I can tell you this. He is a football junkie. Like I do this thing each week where I go to him and I talk to him about the opposing team's top receiver, and he'll give you like 8 minutes on the guy, right? And he talked about how he used to train with Sauce Gardner and Avonte Maddox when they were in high school in Detroit, and that he always has players hitting him up to watch the film, and he does that. So yeah, he's aware of both Quinyon and Cooper DeJean. He said that he wants to prepare these guys as much as he can because he doesn't have a lot of time left, but no one's beating him in a race, right? He says Isaiah Rodgers thinks he can beat him in a race, but no one's beating him in a race.
Mm-hmm. When he said the thing about not a lot of time left, what's your guess on his long tail here at the end?
2 years. What about you?
Here?
Oh, I don't know. 1 year here, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including this one. Do you think that this is his last year with the Eagles?
What's the contract? Let me pull that up here. I certainly wouldn't rule that out. That'd actually be a good show this summer. Is players who we think are like playing their last years with the team, because there's some high profile guys that might fit that conversation. Yeah, Cooper or Darius Slay.
Nothing guaranteed next year.
Nothing guaranteed next year. So yeah, I could see this being his last year with the team.
I think that's probably the most likely outcome. And then what about Tyler Steen?
Tyler Steen. So he was asked about. I should say I asked him directly. Is this your job to lose? And he says he's not viewing it that way. He thinks he has to earn this job, right? And so that's the approach he's taking. I thought he spoke well about the transition from tackle to guard. Like, he's more comfortable with it this year. It was an adjustment. It was an adjustment.
I like Tyler Steen.
Yeah, me too.
Personally, yeah. I think he's got interesting perspective.
Yeah, nice guy. Always enjoy talking to him. And yeah, it's interesting hearing him talk about adjusting from tackle to guard. I asked him a question that I hoped would get like a fun answer. That's when he walks in, he sees his locker's been moved to.
Yeah, he talked about a no-sell.
Yeah, because that shows you're the top right guard, right? They have and we talked about this back when Cam Jurgens spoke to reporters. In the back right corner of the locker room, they have 5 lockers, and it's arranged with the starting offensive line. Now, there are times when a player gets benched and they don't have to move their locker, but going into the season, so they literally moved Jurgens' locker to Kelsey's locker, and they put Steen in Jurgens' locker. Or they gave Steen Jurgens' locker. Okay, so what's that feeling like? It's like when the manager calls you up and says you're going to the show, right? Nah, he didn't think much of it. He said he didn't even notice, really. I'm sure he noticed. His stuff was moved, right?
Right.
But he didn't think much of it.
No. And, I think he was asked about like specific things that Statland is asking him to work on, and he didn't necessarily go into that either, but just like getting used to working with a little bit less space and having people on both sides of you is a thing that he feels more comfortable with now than he did a year ago.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
With Saquon, we talked about the golf thing, but like from a football perspective, he said that it like sunk into him when he was in the huddle the first day of 7-on-7. So I assume he's talking about Monday, and maybe Devontae was there, or maybe he was just saying it as a figure of speech. But he said he saw A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts, and he's like, this is pretty good, or this isn't bad. And that doesn't even factor in the offensive line. I mean, I'm going to take a shot here at the Giants, but...
John Ross is like the best player he's ever played with.
Paris Campbell.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. So, yeah, that stood out. Like, and I pointed this out on social media last night. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith all have contracts that are locked in through at least 2028, In Saquon's case, he's going to be here 2024, 2025. We don't know about 2026. They can get out of the contract then. We don't know if Dallas Goedert's going to be here beyond this season. But Saquon can feel confident that during his time with the Eagles, he's going to be playing with the best wide receiver combination he's ever played with, and I would argue the best quarterback he's ever played with, too.
Easily.
Well, like, he had ended the career of Eli. There was a period.
Yeah.
I mean, Eli won 2 Super Bowl rings, but he had end of career of Eli. Yeah. So
easily.
Yeah, exactly. So
Tanner McKee is the best quarterback he's ever played with.
End of the career,
other than Jalen
Eli
Hurts.
was better than Tanner McKee.
I disagree.
I mean, you love Tanner McKee.
Well, Eli retired for a reason. He didn't have it anymore.
He retired because once a Giant, always a Giant, right?
I guess.
That's what he said at his retirement. He said...
But that's not why he retired.
He had a chance to keep playing, but he wanted to retire a Giant. I think he changed it, actually. He said, once a Giant, always a Giant, only a Giant, I think is what he said. What was his last year?
Classy. 2019, played 4 games.
Yeah.
Was that did Saquon come in 18 or in 19?
Saquon came 18?
18. So he had 1 year with Eli playing a full year. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't good. Eli.
Did they go to the playoffs that year? Or no, he didn't have.
No, he was 5-11.
Yeah, he's never actually. Last year was Saquon's first playoff year. I'm confusing that with that random Ben McAdoo year when they won and the Giants players took the boat trip to or trip down to Florida before the playoff game in Green Bay and then got their butts kicked in. Yeah.
Macadont.
What?
Macadont.
McAdoo.
Yeah. Could have been the Eagles coach.
He could have been the Eagles coach.
They wanted him to be the coach.
A few guys, they liked Adam Gase that year as well.
Maybe like the Jeffrey Lurie always hires the right guy is a little bit luck driven.
Well, I would suggest anything in life's luck driven, but you're evaluated based on the decisions you make, right? So,
Sure.
But
they made the decision to offer the job to Ben McAdoo.
And who knows how Ben McAdoo would have done here?
Sure.
Right. So that's the other thing. I mean, George Seifert was outstanding in San Francisco, was not good in Carolina. So, that kind of stuff happens, right? So, yeah, I think environment has a lot to do with it. But you're evaluated for the decisions that you make.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about?
Look, I'm here. I'm obliged to be here. So if you got anything else you want to ask me, I might not answer it, but
is there anything else from practice that you think is worth discussing?
From practice, no. I mean, we'll be out there again on Thursday or next week. I assume on Thursday, and we'll get a better sense of attendance if they are mixing and matching. The second team running back yesterday, was it Davis Price or was it Gainwell? Or
I believe it was Gainwell.
Yeah, it was Gainwell. I think we kind of covered it. The one thing
I'm curious to. Let's frame it this way. What are the things that you would like to see that you're going to be curious to see next week?
Well, honestly, I'll say this: it's just the nature, and I don't fault Eagles for this. It's the nature of it. So I'll take you guys behind the ropes or inside the ropes, if you will. Okay, we have to stand at one spot on one sideline of the field. During these practices, the defensive linemen are on the complete opposite end. Right? I'll bring binoculars next week. Dave Zangaro does a great job. He always brings binoculars. But I couldn't see the D linemen. So I would like to I do want to get my eyes on some of these edge rushers, the D linemen. Brandon Graham was participating in 7-on-7, doing a lot of dropping. Nolan Smith, he can move, right? I mean, you would expect Nolan Smith to look good in 7-on-7 periods. He's a good athlete. But I do want to get my eyes on these defensive linemen next week.
Yeah, and it's hard because they're not in pads, and it's just sort of seeing how they move.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. To me, it's just how are things different than they were this week? Are the combinations in the secondary different? I'd like to see where Keely Ringo lines up, how he's looking. But yeah, I mean, let's make sure that we're taking everything here with a pretty big grain of salt.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Big grain of salt. Yeah.
What's coming on tap for our show tomorrow? You got some ideas.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a playoff. Our good friend Sheil Kapadia.
Oh my gosh!
What?
We got to steal something from Sheil?
We're not stealing it. We're taking something that he does and building on it.
This is you want to take the reins, and your big thing is to just take something from Sheil?
Let me explain. So Sheil does this thing where he has like 1 through 9, and you pick the numbers, and it's like a different thing.
Oh my God, who could come up with such a wonderful framing device?
That's always an entertaining show when he does that. Okay, I always enjoy that. This is not going to be.
It's not about the numbers. It's about the actual questions.
I know, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
you don't know what's coming, right?
Okay.
It's like a Monte Carlo situation, right? So this is going to be a little different. It's going to be a spin off that game I played with my son. If you watched the show yesterday, you'll understand. We're going to have an x-axis and a y-axis, similar to Immaculate Grid. There's going to be 3 categories in the x, 3 categories in the y. Okay, it's going to be Eagles, let's say along the y-axis. It's going to be Eagles, NFL, miscellaneous. Okay? And then it's going to be along the x-axis. Would you rather?
Ooh.
Okay, I'm going to have a would you rather. I'm going to have a convince me.
Okay.
So I tell you something, and you have to convince me your opinion of it. And then it's going to be predict the future. Okay.
I like this.
So
this has nothing to do with Sheil's thing. You didn't have to give him any credit at all. This is a creation of your own.
Yeah, I always like giving...
you're going to have to go all the way back to just like the inventor of conversation if you're going to be giving everybody credit here.
I'll tell you how. I was in the shower, and I was thinking about the shows the next 2 days. And I was thinking about tomorrow's show, and I was like, maybe I'll come up with an idea.
I like this device.
And I was starting with Shield's device, and I was like, let's build on it. Let's do a different thing. I was thinking of the game I played with my son, but I don't want it to be a trivia type thing. So I'm like, what if I combine these two concepts where it's like you're playing, if you saw Jason Kelce on Jeopardy yesterday, you don't know.
I was going to ask if you saw this.
I just saw the clip that New Heights. I
was trying to get you to watch Jeopardy, and then all of a sudden, in the final, there is Jason Kelce.
Yeah, New Heights does an awesome job with clips. I saw the clip online of Jason doing it, and so it's kind of like that. So Bo can say,
and what an episode that was.
Yeah.
Whew,
So Bo could say, "Would you rather NFL?" Right, and then I would give you, two different things, and you would have to. You have to tell me which one.
I think people understand.
Yeah,
it's good.
Okay.
It's a good one. I look forward to it.
Or convince me Eagles, and I won't pick this one, but I'll say convince me why Tanner McKee is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett or something like that, right?
Okay.
And it'll be a fun way to
I like that.
talk
That's
about.
fun.
I'll give credit to the to our PHLY Flyers show, Bill Matz. He has something, and Charlie O'Connor, but Bill's kind of he steers the ship with, he calls it F Around Friday, where they kind of have like different fun things they talk about. We're entering these summer months, so I'm trying to think of different framing devices that we can use. And there's a period this summer where Bo's going to be out of town, an extended period, and I'm already thinking like, okay, Bo is the creative genius on this show. How am I going to entertain the audience? I do it I can't do 7 days. I can't do 14 days of mailbags or 10 days of mailbags.
As much as you would like.
Yeah, as much as I would like. What if I'm just like, guys, the next 2 weeks, supply questions for every single show, and I will answer them. Yes. Trying to think of different framing devices.
Okay. That'll be fun. The Jeopardy was great.
Oh, I got to watch it.
Oof. What a performance. I don't want to spoil it if people are trying to catch up, but I was very happy with how it turned out. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Stay tuned tomorrow, live at noon. Zach's framing device. We look forward to that. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks to Julia for making it all happen. Thanks to everybody for watching live and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.